I'm sure all of you have heard this song before. It actually became popular back in the 60s when the feminist movement came about. Nowadays, though, when you walk on the beach, it is almost rare to see someone not in a bikini. If they're under the age of 40 and they're secure about their body type, someone would think if they saw someone in a one piece or a tankini, it would be because of insecurity or something of the like. I used to have this view as well. I used to be pretty apathetic about whether someone should or should not wear a bikini. But throughout the years, it has changed a little bit because of Jessica Ray. And this woman, she too used to have a very apathetic view about this matter. But as she did some research and study, her view completely changed, and she now has a campaign where she goes around and talks about why we should not wear bikinis. And she even started a clothing line of like modest one pieces that are cute. Before I get started with the evolution of the swimsuit, I just want to clarify, I really want to encourage you guys to try to get rid of everything, any prior knowledge or thoughts that you have about this matter, because it does seem kind of stupid, like why are you even talking about this? But just as I portray the information, I just want to encourage you guys to have a new, fresh perspective. So, this was at the turn of the century. This was at the end of the 1800s, right at the beginning of the 1900s. And these are known as bathing houses. In these bathing houses, they would start at the top of the beach. Women would come in their street clothes, get into the bathing house, and a horse and a carriage would pull them down to the water. And while it's pulling them down the water, they would actually change into their bathing costume, which was kind of a shorter swimsuit, but it had, leggings. It was very modest and covered. They were not even allowed to get out of the bathing house until they were down at the water, because it was seen indecent for them to be walking around in their bathing costumes. 40 years later, we see the evolution of the swimsuit, and we see one-piece swimsuits that definitely have greatly evolved, but still have a lot of coverage in comparison to what we see today. It wasn't until the 1946, 6 years later, that the bikini was invented by Louis Réard. He was a French engineer, and he wanted to have a big influence in society, like start a pandemic of this new swimwear, which was bikinis. He wasn't able to even find, though, anyone to model his swimsuit. Even fashion magazines, who are known to be a little more risque, were saying that this was just horrible and inhumane. And he actually had to hire a stripper to model the swimsuit. So, yeah. And it wasn't until the 1960s, actually, when it finally hit public and it just went crazy. This was during the feminist movement. So this was when women really wanted to express their rights and their power, and they thought that they could get power by wearing the bikini. So, but recently there was a study done by Princeton, and it looked at the psychology of what happens in men's brains when they see a woman in a bikini. Just before I go into the psychology, this isn't a blow on men saying that they can't handle seeing a woman in a bikini. We know nowadays that it is so common, so widespread, so it shouldn't affect them, but it's just that men are created this way and wired this way for ultimately a good purpose, but it can be misused. So what happened is they did a study, and they gave men a picture of a woman wearing a bikini, and then they gave a picture of a woman wearing a one-piece. And what happened was the men's medial frontal cortex, which is in charge of cognition and also personal interaction, human interaction, was either hindered or completely turned off, which rarely ever happens. And the part of the brain that was lit up on the brain scan was the premotor cortex, which is, I'll give you permission to laugh, in charge of your pre-thought before using a tool or such as a screwdriver or a hammer. So what does this say? This says that when guys see women in bikinis, what happens to their brain is they see them as a tool and not see them as a person who has insight and knowledge. So I just want to challenge both of you. Men, if you have a sister or going to have a daughter when you're older, is this how you want your daughter to be viewed? And women, is this the kind of power you want? I don't think this is the type of power you want. So I want to leave you with this quote by Jessica Rae, modesty isn't about covering up our bodies because they're bad. It's about revealing our dignity. We were made beautiful in His image and likeness. The question I would like to leave you is with this: how will you use your beauty? Well, thank you.